Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk right here on Geekscape. Very excited to be here. As always, I am Christian Bladt, talking all things Marvel, movies, TV, comics, and otherwise. Joined, as usual, by the great Katie Hampton. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
And clockwise is lockwise. Dog like Nate Miller. How are you?
Hello. Good to see you guys.
And my fellow brother in blue and orange, the great David Brody. And thank you in the chat from Kama Egan cheering on the Mets. But don't worry, that's not this show. That's a different show.
Shut off then.
No. It's definitely not that show. So we have a lot of thoughts, I bet, on episode 5 of Agatha All Along. And as I was crafting my tweet this morning, I had the thought about how, in terms of content, we got 24 new minutes in this episode. And so what I thought was, let's see if we can talk about this episode in 23 minutes. So we're going to have this countdown clock. There's no music that goes with it. And honestly, I might bail on the bit if we start getting bogged down, anything like that. But the timer will keep going. I'm going to try to leave it on screen. And I feel like we can do it. Does anybody think that we can't do this? I'm almost confident that we can do it. And, you know, the conversation about Agatha ends at 23, but it's not like we're going to cut the stream at that moment. All right. But if everybody's up for it, I would like to give this a whirl. And as always, we will start when we do start with some big picture things, talking about Agatha All Along, episode 5. And if we're going to start talking about it, we're going to talk about number one Agatha fan, Nate Miller. What did you think?
Well, it was short. That's for sure.
That's a good quality for Nate.
Yep, that's true.
I don't know. It feels
Agatha
like
did not waste your time, did she?
But also, it feels like nothing happened at the same time. Like, I don't know. It was all right. This is definitely my least favorite of the episode so far.
Wow.
Nate misses the singing.
I mean, honestly, at least like the singing was like a coherent trial and like episode in of itself. Like this is, I don't know. I feel like you could watch last week's not knowing anything about anything else in the show and be like, oh, okay, I kind of understand what's going on. And if you did that with this episode, you'd be like, what?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, they needed a song just to pad out the episode. You know, I mean, I was wrong. We didn't get a version of The Witch's Road this week.
I don't think you were totally wrong. It did play underneath. I mean, no one sang it, but it did play underneath when we were talking about Agatha. Yeah.
So to that end, Katie, would you like to tell our co-hosts and our audience the text that you sent me last night after you watched the episode?
I sent the simple one word, wow, which can take on many meanings. Biggest thing I took away from this was, wow, Alice got tempted.
Wow, by the way, stands for Witches of Westview. Right?
So, hey,
look at that. All right. And Brody, after the thrill of watching the Mets advance to the National League Championship Series, I'm sure that this was just the icing on the cake, just another great moment to celebrate. Kind of like how when the Mets won the last series, I went out that night to see Joker 2. And, you know, it would just really continue the good vibes. Yeah, right. Exactly. How was it for you watching this episode of Agatha?
Well, I was glad there was no song. I appreciated that. I liked Agatha crawling around like it was The Exorcist, upside down. It was a very short episode.
Catherine Hahn.
Right. It was a short episode, and I still don't understand why Billy was a mystery, because he wasn't a mystery to us. And since last week, Agatha figured it out. Well, they didn't explain how she figured it out, but she's like, I know your mother. So the reveal was like, yeah, okay, he's Wiccan. We get it. Yep, big surprise.
Yeah.
So
So also he says Nicholas Scratch. So that's like, all right, clearly that's not who he is because we can't hear him say who he is. And sorry, finish your thought, Brody.
No, you're very good, right? And so was Nicholas Scratch in the room? I don't understand that completely. There was a voice of Nicholas Scratch, but then they didn't address it again. I thought when the staircase came down, Nicholas Scratch was in that room. She went in the room, but he wasn't there. So overall, it was a 23-minute mess that was more entertaining for me than last week. It was okay. It was an okay episode, I guess.
Well, our friend Kame Egan says, I liked that this was a fast-paced episode and our suspicions were confirmed. Yeah, I mean, they were basically confirmed at the end of last week. And yes, fast-paced. And shout out to our friend Daniel Drew, who will have to be watching this sort of after the fact. He can't make it live because Chess Club starts at the same time until the end of January. He enjoyed the episode. He has 2 exclamation points after Blue Magic. One of the things that I'm going to say... Yeah, go ahead.
He can't be part of a dorky geek podcast because he's got to go play chess.
Yeah, he's trying to out geek us. And Daniel, it's work.
Is he playing his clarinet at the same time? Come on.
So in any case, this is a great point from Kemi. And I think Nicholas Scratch is her bunny, Senor Scratchy. So
yeah, Kemi, you mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, and I've been thinking about that more and more since you mentioned that, and I was like, oh, that is potential. I do still think that Rio had some involvement within that whole thing, but I think, especially with the mention of Daniel Drew, Blue Magic, it's mental magic. We don't know if Nicholas Scratch was really there or not, or
True.
You know, after he was told, you're just a familiar, you're just a pet, like keep confirming that. And he gets pissed at the end. Something about that. I'm like, how long has he actually been using his magic? And especially with like losing his little spell book and all that, I feel like there's more to be seen with his involvement in this entire experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Wiccan / teen, I do think that, there's the moment where he basically, shocks all the other witches away. What do you feel, Nate, in terms of getting a little bit more from teen and perhaps that, like the Transformers, there's more than meets the eye?
I mean, I'm excited that they are finally moving this plot forward and they're not going to just like wait for a finale reveal type situation. But again, in reference to how short this episode was, it just feels odd that like so much, like almost half of the episode is really just like teaser for like more mystery with zero explanation. And I think it will be definitely better for the show. I'm assuming that next week we will just dive straight into what we've just seen and we'll get more on the character, which is something I've been looking forward to. But yeah, it just like if we got something that was as substantial as last week's episode and then at the end came this like teaser, I think I would have felt a lot better about it. But I just was still looking for more answers of like what happened in the trial. Like you said the son's name and then she snapped out of it, but then he's like goodbye and then they just leave. Like it felt very disjointed. It felt like there was some stuff that was like cut or missing. So I am glad that at least we are progressing the meta narrative forward. The Blue Magic stuff did look really cool, effects wise, and I don't know, like I was on the Senior Scratchy's Nicholas Scratch train, but as they've kind of revealed more information, I'm getting the vibe that he is just dead and not with us anymore. And I think the implication of, whether or not you decide to believe Agatha or not, but her saying that like she can't control the magic sucking powers stuff, I think could have some interesting implications on how her son died and like what exactly her involvement in that was. So there are some cool breadcrumbs. It just felt like it was tacked on to an incomplete episode and then kind of just like we're not talking about any of the rest of the episode already, because like the whole thing with the Salem 7 could have been a much longer encounter. Like even within the house, they were barely in the house. We barely got any of the like, oh, here's a callback to a reference from this era or from this type of witch or whatever. Like it just felt like the pacing was off. And like they were just kind of rushing to get to this last section, which should have been tacked onto a complete episode.
Yeah, I mean the brief runtime, I think, says a lot about. You feel like that there's more left on the table. In terms of what Nate's saying, in terms of the era, we have them in sort of like in '80s pajama party outfits. And I felt like the 70s costuming was much more convincing and better, just better visually. I was very underwhelmed by this, and that's the least of my problems with a series like this. But I was just like, oh, just a bunch of really big shirts, and it's kind of 80s-ish. Maybe somebody overspent at wherever they did the costuming for the 70s episode. What do you think about all this, Brody, in terms of the amount of time spent in the house, the little bit that we get about Wiccan? I mean, it's really, I would say, of course, as Cam Egan says, R.I.P. Alice, which we'll get to, but apart from just the acknowledgement of that, the only real takeaway is just dealing with Wiccan in this, right?
Well, I was a little surprised with the Salem 7. It was like whenever a hero fights, like in a karate movie, they're surrounded by 10 people, but they only come at him one at a time. There's 7 witches. They want to kill them, but they only send one.
Well, think of the animal creature that took form. It was an owl, so probably flew along when it was an owl. That like a this fucking guy. Jesus Christ. I cannot believe I fell for that. I'm so mad at you.
When you fell for it the first time, I was like, how many times is Brody going to do this?
I got 2.
All right.
I'm just full on. I'm so gullible, you guys. But yeah, I mean, I would assume because I know, Cammy, shut up. But I would assume because it was the owl form, it caught up to them because of the whole like riding the witches' brooms and stuff. Potentially that's why. I don't know if that's the reason why that only one caught up with them, but it seemed, when you have one of them crawling backwards on their hands downstairs and stuff, they might not go that fast. I don't know.
They may not go that fast. And I'm glad you brought up. Go ahead.
I did think, by the way, it with the Salem 7 and them flying and then the witches on the brooms, it was very Harry Potter Death Eater-esque to me.
I'm glad you connected those dots, because to me, the broom sequence that I think they might have left the lens cap on. It was very dark. I don't know that we need broom sequences after Harry Potter.
Come on,
it's been done.
But like against that red moon, that was a really cool shot. Like all the witches going across that moon. Here's what I'm going to allow for. Ivan Soto says riding the brooms was fun. If you take it out, then we're at 20 minutes. So yes, all right, fine. I just was underwhelmed by it, but it didn't.
Or they cut out an actual like sequence with the Salem 7 to save time, and they were like, instead they'll just fly away until they can't fly away anymore, and then now they're back on the road immediately where they started, and surprise, the Salem 7 is still in front of them.
Right. Well, I think if we do get to the Salem 7 in the very near future, it'll be fine that they teased it here. But I definitely felt like, wait, especially after it was over. It's like, wait, that's the most interesting thing that could have happened in this episode. And you immediately ran away from it. I don't know how I felt.
And didn't even effectively run away from it. Like, I appreciate the references of them being like, yeah, we don't do this anymore because it's so cliche. Like, I thought that was cool. I thought it was cute that Alice had her little bonding moment with the teen. I get that part.
That's how you knew she's going to die.
Me off was that we had this whole sequence that effectively did nothing. They were trying to run from them. They ran, and they were still right there. Like, it especially when we've seen that the road is not like a literal distance that you travel. It like fluctuates to get you where you, like last episode when they turned around and the house was still like right in front of them. it just makes no sense, like zero sense, other than someone was like, either they had a like a fight sequence or some type of battle sequence that they ended up cutting for budget or time reasons or something, or someone was just like, what if they flew? What if we just had a sequence where they flew on brooms? Like it like, at least just let them get there and have them not like have the Salem person that they fly through, because they're still chasing them. It effectively changes nothing in the story. They get inside and they go, oh well, let's get out of here before they catch up to us. So what does it matter if they were right outside the door than if they were just inevitably coming down the road, which we've seen?
To Kama Egan's point, how did none of them get stung by the bees when they blasted through one of the Salem 7?
Well, the bees don't want to die. Death is already collecting too many bodies. And also, can we talk about the fact that Rio didn't show up at the end and get blasted by... Where did Rio go?
Yeah, by the way, I just quick detour because you brought up Rio. What I said last week, that having Aubrey Plaza in an episode is the only thing that saves it. I'm having an issue with Aubrey Plaza right now because I saw Megalopolis on Monday, and I can't look at any actors from that for a little while. So it was definitely, I had to avert my eyes.
On the brooms
that was fantastic.
Great. I was like, oh my God, did they dub her or did she actually do that? Because that was really well done.
Yeah.
I think she did it. It sounded
good.
like her.
Brody, I feel like you were trying to get in with something before I move on to
just when you mentioned Rio, when they were doing the Ouija board thing, one of them said, "Death is here."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she cackled.
And yes, she is, because we already know that, spoiler, she's Rio's death. So they didn't really address that, other than they said death is here, but they didn't take it like the being death was there. They took it like death is in the air. But right. I took it as Rio's there.
That's what I took.
The way I interpreted that was she laughed because she knows that the spirit, which was Agatha's mom that was controlling it, was just like saying things to try to like scare them, of like, death is here, whereas like the manifestation of death is sitting at the table. Like, that's funny, because obviously it turns out to not be death. It turns out to be what's her name, the Elder Harkness. So I read it that way, as that kind of laugh.
I mean,
Kama Egan loves the laugh. It was very Wizard of Oz. And my buddy Raging Rhino with a nice reference, blame it on Rio. I'm still waiting for somebody to talk about her dancing by the sands. What were you going to say, Katie Hampton?
I was just going to say that we also had the rule that you're not supposed to talk about death while doing the Ouija board or taunt the spirits. And honestly, like because Agatha did Mrs. Hart in the first one, I kind of feel like Rio did death on the second one, but not really.
Was it Mrs. Hart or was it Mr. Shart?
Mr. Shart. You watched that New York too, didn't you?
Right. So let's talk about sort of what we've touched on, getting to see Agatha's mother. And our buddy Ivan likes how much Rio's like, I hate Agatha, but I really hate her mother, which I think is an interesting dynamic, which I expect to see more of. I thought it was interesting, but I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not complaining about a fast-paced episode that's sort of kind of breezed by, but it's like we see her and then she's gone, or is she? I guess that's the question. And so I'm wondering, what do we all think in terms of how soon it might be until we see the Elder Harkness again? I ask you first, Mr. Brody.
I don't know. I think she was one and done. I mean, I didn't get the impression that they were bringing her back for character development. I think they were just there to show her and torture Agatha a little bit. I don't know if it's necessary to have her back, although they're clearly short for content. So maybe they bring her back to fill up an episode. Or she sings. Maybe. I don't know if the actress sings who played the mother, but
maybe she goes back to being a police detective for half an episode because they're like, we have some footage left from that, so let's put her back out on the case. What do you think, Nate? As it comes, sort of, you touched on that a little bit, but do you think that we'll see Agatha's mom again? Because I feel like we will, but I'm kind of wondering what everyone else thinks.
I mean, maybe, like, again, like, one of my issues with that scene is like Alice is like doing some type of magic thing, which we don't know exactly what, to get the spirit out but then we don't see what happens to the spirit. It just turns into Agatha sucking the life force out of her. Like
It
the
blows
spirit,
back.
yeah, like it's like moved out, but that's not a that's not a like a okay, she dissipates or she's laid to rest, or like there isn't any type of finality to it. We go from the sequence of okay, now we have to deal with Agatha being possessed to okay, that's over. We're done with that. Now we're on to Agatha sucking the powers out of Alice, and then the story just kind of completely ignores the rest of the stuff that happened. So, I mean, I think if we do see her, it'll be more of like a flashback situation to more of the past, and maybe understand why she
That's fair.
was
Yeah.
like, I should have killed you as soon as you were born, which seems pretty harsh.
Well,
Like at least
it's
give
a
her
little
a
harsh.
year,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
annoying, and then
I
be
can
like,
understand
oh
why
no,
she's
yeah.
Yeah.
a
Even
little fucked up.
even Mommy Dearest doesn't go that far. What do you think, Katie? In terms of we we're pretty close to hitting our goal for this conversation, but
Sure.
let's talk about R.I.P. Alice and sort of how that comes about. I do believe that it's not what Agatha intended, but then she's like, "Oh well, I mean, I'm not going to really fight that hard to stop it." I mean, she tries to say I couldn't stop. Do you believe her, Katie?
Only partially. I only partially believe her. I think she was a little messed up because of the ghost. I do find it interesting that Rio is very against ghosts. You know, being in charge of death and all. But I feel like we're gonna see a lot of these characters who have died or supposedly died in the penultimate episode. I think we're gonna get some like something coming back because especially with Alice, the whole like generational trauma beast, whatever, said like the end lyric was like, I'll see you in the end or something. So I think we're gonna see a lot of these dead characters, one form or another, in the penultimate or the actual final episode. And maybe tie up some loose ends. Probably not everything, because that's not how these things work usually.
No.
I am curious to see what this next episode's gonna hold for us, because if it is another trial, feels a little bit shafting of this. I don't like that Alice died because we didn't get much of her story to begin with, and it feels like woof. But I feel like whatever they do with the next episode, I'm gonna be very interested to see how everything plays out, where Rio went, and what Wiccan's going to do next.
So Nate, I kind of have a similar question for you, sort of the passing of Alice and kind of where we might go from here.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because while I do think that there is, especially having the embodiment of death on the show, I do think that there is some opportunity to have the dead characters kind of resurface at a certain point, but I do think she is dead. Especially given like yes, it was very short, but she also from the beginning got the shortest introduction, the shortest backstory, the shortest character work, so it makes sense to me that she would also die first. Last episode we got kind of the resolution to her character arc, but however this kind of like just throws that in the trash, because the whole point was that her mom did this spell to protect her and break this generational curse so she didn't die, and she finally embraced the magic of the song so that it could like keep her safe, and then she just dies next episode, which is like kind of, I don't know, it just I'm sure that there is more that is going to come. We're only, we're just past the halfway point, so there is some more story to be had. But yeah, it just felt, I don't know, again, like with everything in this episode, it felt just kind of rushed. I do think, I think that there are some interesting possibilities. If we are assuming that Audrey Plaza is death, which is pretty obvious that she is, it makes sense that she would stay behind with the body. There was that scene that they, in the last episode, where Agatha was trying to bait her into talking, revealing her plan to everyone, but she says like they'll all die along the way, I get their powers, you get their bodies, kind of a thing. So I think we're seeing that happen, of she's now claiming Alice's body for whatever thing, and that's why she wasn't there in that last sequence.
Well, if there's any of us that I feel like could talk it up and hit the post in under a minute, David Brody, your thoughts for where we go from here?
Let me think about that for about 30 seconds.
Oh, God.
Well, I think we have to figure out where the quicksand led to. Where are those three witches? I don't think Wiccan would have killed two of them. No. So I don't, Is that some kind of cleansing thing that he put them in? Is it a trap door to someplace else? He has to know what that is. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put them in that hole. So I feel like next week's episode, it can't be just Rio and Wiccan. So they got to get them out or show where they are at the moment. And the other two witches have to be thinking, okay, Mrs. Hart is dead and Alice is dead. We're clearly next. That's Agatha's pattern. So am I supposed to go to the end here? Because I will if you want me to.
No, you don't have to, because Cam Egan says I wanted more of Alice's backstory and feel we were shortchanged. I also want more about Jen and Lila and the reason why Rio and Agatha hate each other. Yeah, I think we're going to get all of that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our time here. I didn't realize that it was going to make that sound at the end. No, we're not done with the show, but I felt like that was, so even after I closed it out of the screen, I could still hear that noise in my headphones. I think we gave this episode the amount of time it was worth discussing. There were a few chats earlier that I wanted to save for afterwards. Our buddy Raging Rhino said, if I had known there would be a timer, I would have waited to heat up my leftovers. Great to see you. And we did say this earlier. Rio could have christened me in the bunny. But I like, I'm getting to this one because Sky the Magnanimous 8 has some very nice things to say. First of all, he says, hi, everyone from Hillsborough County, Florida, which we hope that if you were anywhere near the storm, that you're safe and dry this morning. And if not, that you will be soon. And he hasn't seen the show, but he hears it's great. So you clearly haven't seen it. I've seen clips and trailers. Spoilers, which I appreciate. But really, this is why I start his chats. The Blackcast, y'all are the best podcast out here. Won't be able to stay long. Love you. I really should have done this while he was here. Guys, love you guys so much and all your incredible work over the past 15 years. I appreciate that. Sky the Magnanimous was also in the Blackcast episode I did about Megalopolis yesterday. So great to see him here. And tying into what we watched, I truly hope, if it's possible, that Agatha leads to a Scarlet Witch and the House of M feature film after the X-Men reboot. Look, we don't even have the X-Men yet. We don't even have mutants, and you're already trying to give us no more mutants. It would be a cool thing to see one day. I just don't think we're there. Scarlet Witch and the Hellfire Club versus X-Men and the Avengers and Fantastic Four. Yeah, I mean, look, you're talking about like phase 13 or something. You know, I mean, that's all great stuff, you know, based on the comics. Brody, oh wait, I'm sorry. Just to put a punctuation on that, Sky says I am safe and sound, which we're glad to hear.
Well, he lives in Hillsborough. I imagine he's up on a hill, so he should be good.
You would hope, yeah. But maybe that's the irony. Maybe it's in the flatlands. Who knows?
Oh, like Iceland and Greenland. So
maybe.
I realize that this podcast is so short that the guy always pops in and says, is this the seminar on how Constantinople fell to the Turks? No, I'll see myself out. He didn't even show up. He didn't have time to come in.
Hackride has not visited us. He did visit yesterday when we were talking about Megalopolis, but I don't see him. I don't ask him to do that. He has to find it on his own. And, you know, the fact that, you know, we're going to be way under an hour that he hasn't come in yet, but that's all right. Just to keep it on the show for a second, though, Ivan Soto, he had said something like this earlier. I'm worried Teen's reveal isn't real. I'm worried it's a red herring because it was too soon. I don't know. I think that, I mean, the casting of the actor and I don't know. I do believe that that's what we're going to have, but yeah, he could certainly be somebody else. You know, the fact that Agatha's figured out who he is, but Katie, I'll ask each of you, but I'll ask you first. Does anyone think there's a chance that he's not Wiccan at this point?
No, I don't think so. I feel like it would be a sham if they tried to make him, I don't know, Vision 3.5. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we still got that what is the White Vision show called? I want it to be called Double Vision, but I don't think it actually is.
Vision Quest.
Because I'm like Double Vision, they'd have to pay Foreigner for the song, and I don't think that's
Lou Graham's got to come on set.
Come on, I'm saying, yeah. Nate, are you in agreement that Teen is Wiccan now and forever?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do think though that there was something weird going on with what we saw at the end of the episode, and I'm not convinced that he was totally in control of what was happening.
Yeah.
I think it may have been some side effect of like the hex that was on him, like breaking maybe, or something related to that. I definitely think it was his powers, but I think he may not have been in control. But yeah, at this point, especially with the like, he's not your son, and then him saying Nicholas Scratch and all of the other breadcrumbs that they've left, I don't think there's any way he's not Wiccan, especially with the crown that they've shown too, which evokes Scarlet Witch, as well as kind of the comic book outfit. Even the outfit that he wore in like the 80s bit part was very reminiscent of Wiccan's costume in the comics.
Yeah, no, I liked all of those nonsense. By the way, Ivan Soto, I did not hear about this. A rumor of a Tommy Maximoff show after Vision Quest. That seems like one of those ideas that might have been around a couple years ago. And I don't know. I think less is more is what we're finding. I don't know that anybody needs a Tommy Maximoff show. But I'll ask you, Brody, if you think that he's possibly anything else, but also a question that I have for the panel. What do you think the odds are that the Mets beat the Padres? No. What do you think that the odds are that we see Wanda in this series? I've got my chance, but I want to know what you think first, Brody.
Well, a top Marvel exec was recently asked if the Scarlet Witch was dead, and she said, well, she's currently off the table, but you'll have to keep watching and see. So I feel like, it could be a different Wanda. I mean, with the multiverse, if this kid is Wiccan, he could be a Wiccan from another reality, and it could be another Scarlet Witch. We saw other Wiccans in WandaVision. So this Wiccan may not be the kid from Scarlet Witch who died on the mountain or
That's
didn't
fair.
die on the mountain. We don't know any of that. So I don't know if, here's what I'll say. I think the odds are better that another Scarlet Witch shows up than the original Scarlet Witch showing up. I think
Okay.
that
Do you think they would recast?
No. I'm just saying.
I mean, you could get Mary Kate Olsen or Ashley.
Ashley
That'd
Olsen.
be easy
Right.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we might see a Scarlet Witch. Could be the same actress, could be Elizabeth Olsen, but I'm saying it's not going to be the Earth 616 timeline that we saw possibly die. I think that's a reveal that's too big for a Disney show. I think that's
Cam
more of a
Egan
Secret
says
Wars
a
thing.
less than 1% chance that Wanda makes an appearance. And to bring it back to baseball for a moment, on August 10th, the Detroit Tigers had a 0.02% chance of making the playoffs. And here they are. So we're going to set it at 0.02% is our odds. What do you think?
As far as Wiccan, he's got an M in his crown. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. What do you think? Yeah, I know. When the Ouija board spelled out Nicholas Scratch, I wasn't listening close enough. I may have fallen asleep at some point and had to rewind. But I thought it spelled out Mephisto for a second. But then on rewatch, I'm like, oh, no, it's Nicholas Scratch. All right. But Nate, do you think we'll see Wanda in this series?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a non-zero chance. I think it's pretty low. I mean, I do think there is a lot of benefit, if that's the right word, to having, even if it's just like a 30-second cameo of her appearing in some capacity. I mean, if I was them, I would even just use old footage in some way to, cut the appearance fee down. I don't know, like especially as we get more of the backstory of Wiccan, as they if they explain more of it, we might, but as it stands, I would probably say no. If we do, it's going to be a very, very minor, like, remember this lady, like, not going to be like Brody said, they're not going to do like a big lore dump of like, here's an update of what's happened in this TV show. But we might get kind of like a side update of like, here's a little more detail of what we already know happened, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and what are you thinking, Katie, in terms of the non-zero chances that we see Wanda?
A similar thought. It would be cool, but I've often thought like, oh, it would be cool if this person showed up or this person showed up, but I'm never going to bank on that because we still have a lot of storylines and threads to wrap up. And if they do it, I feel like it's a post-credit teaser type of situation, like looking over the shoulder, and it's, I don't know, or it's just like Wanda, like darkly shadowed, and you just see the like crown or something like that. Like I feel like if we do get something, I feel like it's going to be a tease at the end for something else. But it would be cool. It would be cool because it would make
Well,
sense.
I do like the idea of getting an I do like the idea of getting an alternate Wanda, and I hunted around for an image of the John Byrne short-haired evil Wanda, which is long before House of M, and I would like to see this. I think we could get some variation on this, but I'd like to see a different Wanda. I thought we might have gotten to see that Wanda in Multiverse of Madness. What are you gonna say, Nate?
But isn't that what we got in Multiverse of Madness? Was Dark Evil Wanda?
No, her hair was long. No, her hair was long.
Yeah, John Byrne likes to cut women's hair. John Byrne cut Sue Storm's
he did it
hair.
to Sue Storm. Hair.
If I'm like speculating on where this is going, especially knowing that Vision Quest is coming, I think outside of just introducing these characters for Young Avengers, I think the goal of Vision Quest will be kind of looking for Wanda, what happened to Wanda, where is she kind of thing. And so that's why I don't think that she will appear in the show. I think Katie has it right. We may get like a reference or something, or like a little, a silhouette or something of that nature. But I think it seems like they're building towards this mystery of what happened to Wanda and how what happened to her has affected the status quo of the Marvel Universe. That this is just setting up one of the people who is going to go, now I have become into myself. I have powers. But now I want to find out, where did my mom go? How did this happen? Et cetera, et cetera.
Wanda Quest.
Yeah. Wanda's.
Assuming that Vision Quest is even what they call the show by the time it comes out, because like Agatha went through
Vision all along.
Name changes too. Yes, yeah.
To Brody's point, this is the short hair, evil, invisible woman. I think she was still the Invisible Girl at this point. So yes, it is definitely a trend.
She looks like she's just got pigtails and like a faux hawk going on or something.
That's about 60 episodes in. When he first cut her hair, she had a bob. In like 225, I think, when John Byrne took over, it was really
I'm
short.
talking about dark Sue Storm, dark Invisible Woman, and that was the big reveal. That
wait a minute, how dark can Invisible Woman be if she's invisible?
Girl, and then she changes her name to the Invisible Woman.
Seems like an oxymoron.
Anyway, I think that we did hit the goal for today. I'm finding some lag time with some of the connection. It's probably my fault. So it's a great time to wrap it up and tell you that we'll be looking to do a full episode next week, as long as they give us a full episode. But until then, why don't each of you remind people where they can
well, you can find me at LSassyPants on most of the social medias. You can also find me at the Pack Theater every other Wednesday. Next show coming up is on the 16th with Faux Pas. Take your embarrassing stories and make them worse. Nate, where can people find you?
You can find me at DogLikeNate on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. And send me your theories about what you think is going to happen for the show.
Brody,
David,
I'm waiting for you guys to throw it to me. Katie threw it to Nate.
The director threw it to you. You had a close up. I had the spotlight on you, Brody.
Oh, very good. Well, you could find me on Twitter and Instagram at David Brody. You could find me on TikTok at David Brody 12. Although I haven't posted any videos yet. I have a new Mets song coming out today. I will post that. It is an update of my 2006, 2007, 2008, 2015, 2016, 2022 song that has now been updated for 2024. That drops today. And of course, you can always find me on the Brooklyn Boys podcast.
When you do Mets playoff songs, you only need to update them once in a while. You don't have to really keep going back into the studio all the time. As always, I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. My personal podcast, the Blattcast, BLADTCAST. I did do an episode on Megalopolis yesterday, and I'm doing an episode on Joker 2 tomorrow. And as soon as Brody sees the Jason Reitman Saturday Night Live movie, we'll do an episode on that.
Talk
about it in general. All right. Perfect. Well, it's an off day for the playoffs. It makes sense that you're able to. And out of all the movies that I've seen, Saturday Night by Jason Reitman might not be my favorite movie, but if you're given the option of, do I see Saturday Night, Joker 2, or Megalopolis? go ahead and check out Saturday Night by
It
Jason.
looks good.
It's quite the recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. But that is all the time we have for now. We'll see everybody, like I said, for a full episode next week. At least we hope. If they give us another 24-minute, I'm going to stick with this countdown bit. But until next time, as the great Stanley Martin Lieber, the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!